for Windows, we will use this exe installer for DMD. So click on that, save file. And for LDC, we need to go to download and then to GitHub release page. And again, we want to install the exe installer. It's called multi-lib because it contains both 32-bit and 64-bit libraries for building both versions of applications. So download this. So once those are downloaded, we need to install first the DMD compiler. Since for debugging purposes we need to install Visual Studio, we might as well install a Visual D plugin as well. So if you later want to work with Visual Studio, you also have that option. We will install it here. And although the most optimal option would be to install just the build tools, in order for everything to work correctly, unfortunately, you would need to select some additional options. So the safest thing is still to install complete Visual Studio 2019. Now, before clicking install, make sure to select this option. So we get all the Windows development tools. And also in the individual components, make sure to also select one more thing. And that's this x64, x86 Spectre mitigated libs, because some of the tools may not work without it. And now this will take a while. And when that is finally installed, we can exit the installer. And then we will install the Visual D plugin. And complete the DMD setup. Next, we will install the LDC compiler. We can install both 32 and 64-bit libraries. And for everything to work, we now need to restart the computer. Okay, now that both the compilers are installed and the computer is restarted, we can check by opening command prompt if dmd version works. It does. And if ldc2 version works. And it does. It says the version of the compiler and on what DMD compiler it is based on and what targets it supports. Okay, so next step is to install Visual Studio Code. Once it is downloaded, we run it. You can choose the options you want here. Once it is installed, we can start it. And next we need to install extensions for DLang. So we go to extensions, we type code D. And we need to install this extension by WebFreak. It will provide us with auto-completion, code formatting, static linting, outlining and searching for symbols and more, but not debug support. But we'll get to that later. So now this extension is installed. We should reload the window once. So open Command Palette, Ctrl-Shift-P, and type reload window. And then we can create a new folder for our project. Let's say the hello world. Select folder. Now open the command palette again and type code D, and here you can see the options it provides. So select create new project. And the first time you run this, it will take a while because the extension will actually now download and set up all the additional tools it needs for its work. Once it does that, it gives you the option of choosing a template for your new application. We will go with empty console application now. And upon that first installation of the tools, you will also get this code D user guide. So if you go to debugging from there, so here you can read about how to set up debugging, but this page may not be the latest one, so it's better to find online documentation for that. Here we are. Now here it says that actually there are a few extensions for debugging. There is this C++ extension, there is native debug extension, and code LLDB extension. And a bit below you will find what is suggested for Windows. So recommendation summary for Windows, we should use VS Debugger through C++ extension. So the extension is called MS VS Code. So let's find that one. MS VS Code. Here it is. So let's install that. It downloads additional things. That should be it. Again, it is suggested to reload the window. And once that is done, we can look at what this template generated for us. So we have dub.json, which just tells the project name. Dub.json is a file for dub package manager and build tool. So besides project information, here you can also specify build options, and one of the options we want is called target path, where the output will be built, and we'll say that is bin hello world.exe. Save that. It will create that directory. Git ignore is already set up with default values. We will want to add this bin directory as well, so we don't commit the build files. And if we look at the source, we just have a plain main method, and here we can add some write line, and as you can see, the autocomplete is working. So we will print hello world number, and we will define world number as 42, for example. And if we now go Control Shift P, or if we choose Run Build Task, we can use the built-in tasks to execute the builds, and we have a choice between just build or also run. So if we select run, our application should be built. It was run in the same console. So here is the output from our program. The next step is debugging. So first thing is that we need to define that task for running ourselves. So the easiest option is to press Ctrl Shift B, and then to use this build and press cog next to it. That will create a task.json file in the project, actually. That is a copy of that default one. We will delete generated because we will modify it now. It says that the build type is dub, that it shouldn't run the application. The compiler it should use is DMD. It should build for 64-bit architecture. Build type should be debug. Configuration is application. This is useful if your dub.json has multiple configurations that define different kind of builds with different parameters. So you can target different configurations here. And label is something we can name this. So let's call it dub-dmd build. And this is just a description that basically tells you what are the parameters it will, what is the command it will invoke. And besides this, we can also define one more. So this could use the LDC2 compiler. And what we need to change is the name and this and description to better describe what we are doing. And now when we have those tasks and press Ctrl-Shift-B, we will get our tasks here. And next thing that we need to do is go to Run and add configuration for C++ Windows. So that will create a default configuration, launch configuration for us. Again, we should consult the documentation here for how to set this up. So it says we should be able to use code D as a wrapper actually, but I'm not sure that will work. Let's see, code D. Yeah, you see it's complaining that debug type is not recognized. So we need to find manual configuration for this. Yes, so it should be cppv debug, as it was. Our program, as we saw, will be under bin hello world. So now that is set up, we should be able to debug, but we still can't set breakpoints. In order to do that, we have to go to File Preferences, Settings, and then to Features Debug, and enable Allow Setting Breakpoint in any file. So now that we enabled that, we can now put a breakpoint here, and now we can just press F5 or choose Run Start Debugging. But unfortunately it doesn't want to start the debugger. Oh yeah, and we can also define that before each run we want to run a pre-launch task, which can be our dub-dmd build, for example. So this needs to match the label in this file. So this thing, dub-dmd build, dub-dmd build. Okay. Oh yeah, target path actually needs to be defined like this right now, and let's delete this build with the wrong name. Okay, and this directory when we write it. Okay. And we will define target name as hello world.exe. Delete this one. Okay, no exe. And finally we get our breakpoint, and by placing a mouse cursor over the variable we can also inspect its value. We can also add the variable name here and see its value. So debugging is working, and we can also step through the code. So that is it.